What's going on, my friend? It's Danny here from projectmaniverse.com, real world technical project management for beginners. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 benefits of using a decision log. I'll tell you what a decision log is. I'll tell you why you should care about using one as a project manager, and then I'll go into the benefits. So let's jump into the video. First of all, what is a decision log? Well, as you go on your project journey as a project manager, and you're going through the project lifecycle, there'll be many occasions where you have to make important decisions. And these decisions are key and they're important because they will impact the project, either in regards to cost, quality, or time frame, or they'll impact it in such a way that it would actually change the course of the project's direction. So it's those really big decisions that I'm mainly talking about here. And as you go through your project, you will have to make them. And because they are so important, you as a project manager don't really have the power to make those decisions. They usually go to more senior people like the project sponsor or the exec or some more senior leaders. There'll usually be some kind of steering group. Within that steering group, there'll be a quorum, a minimum number of people that are required on that steering group to make a important decision. But as I say, as you go through your project, you'll have times when you have to make big important decisions that will impact the project. You can't make them yourself as a project manager. You don't have that power, or you shouldn't be doing that anyway. You need to discuss them with your team, come up with options, and then you go up to your senior leaders or your steering group, and they ultimately will make that decision, and that gets recorded. Those decisions get recorded and stored in a decisions log, and they need to be recorded because they are so important. You need to evidence why you made that decision, who made it. So the decision log will include what the decision was, it will include who made the decision, it will include any options that were considered, any evidence, all that kind of good stuff will go into your decision log, and you keep it throughout the life cycle of the project. As I say, this is usually something that you have to do. It's part of the project management governance. So you will have to keep a project decision log, and it's usually stored in some kind of software. The one I've always used is something called CMT, but if there isn't a company software that's used for projects where you can store these decisions, you might just have to put them in Excel or SharePoint or something. But yeah, that's basically what a decision log is. As a project manager, you should care about it because, as I say, most organizations will, if they're big enough and formal enough, they will require you to keep a decision log for the purposes of the project and the purposes of audit trails in the future. So it's something that you have to do. So you need to be aware of them. I will say those decision logs that are required for the big decisions, they are only really there for the big decisions. You don't have to keep a log of every single decision you make on the way. So there's various degrees of impact a decision will have, and we're talking about the real big ones here that are going to have the biggest impact. Those need to be documented. So you're going to need to know how to do this as a project manager, and it will also benefit you in many ways as well, and I'll talk about those benefits now. So benefit number 1, a decision log. And before I go into the benefits, I will say that I like to have my own decision log, not just the one that you have to keep with all the big important decisions. I also like to keep ones for smaller decisions that you make with your project team as well, that may not have a huge impact on the project, but they are still fairly important. So I like to keep my own version for those smaller decisions that I make along the way. So the benefits of keeping this small log, and the big one as well, is it's very useful for settling conflicts and arguments, because as you go through your project and you go through all the life cycles, you'll make a lot of decisions along the way. And I've said this before, but a week can feel like a day on a project. Time passes so quickly, especially on these big high profile projects where you've got a big budget and it's really, really involved and everything's urgent and everything's going at 100 miles per hour. the time passes so quickly and so much can happen in a day. You have so many conversations, you're jumping from meeting to meeting, you're tackling issues as you go along. But yeah, a lot can happen, so it's easy to forget what discussions have been had. So sometimes you'll agree something with some stakeholders, you'll have a call about it, an hour-long meeting, and you all agree at the end and you go, yep, we'll do this. And then like a month or two down the line, that thing you were talking about resurfaces, and sometimes you can't remember what decision was made, or you can't remember why you made that decision, or the people that agreed to it can't remember agreeing to it, and it can cause a lot of conflict on the project, arguments and all this kind of stuff. And if you haven't got that decision log somewhere with evidence and a clear audit trail, it can be painful. So that's the first benefit. It's very good at settling arguments and remembering what was said in the past. Now, by extension, the second benefit is it saves time, because if you don't have that decision log somewhere and captured, and you're having these arguments about who said what, you'll waste a lot of time trawling through old emails and trying to find evidence, but you'll often have to waste time arguing about it, and then you might have to go back and repeat the whole discussion you had in the first place and redo the whole hour meeting you had in the first place, so you're wasting time. So by having this log, not only can it settle arguments, but it can also save time as well. The third reason is, or the third benefit, it's very good for an audit trail, kind of related to the first 2 points. But I've mentioned this before, if you're doing an important project, you will often be audited by a third party to make sure you've done the project correctly, or the correct governance has been followed. And this is a really key part of that audit, because people are going to want to know that those key decisions have been made with due diligence, all options have been considered. They're going to know why those decisions were made, why wasn't option B taken instead of option A, and they're going to want to know when it was made, who made it, and all the evidence to support that as well. So when you get audited and you don't have a decisions log, that could lead to a problem and you might fail your audit, which is not what you want. So that's 3 key benefits. The last benefit I'll talk about is having a decision log, the smaller version that I talked about that you keep for yourself as a project manager. You'll look very professional, because I have to say, this is all about, as I say, real world technical project management. And in the real world, I have to say that project managers don't usually keep a decisions log. It's something that we all kind of know we should do, but we just don't get around to it. There isn't time for it. We'll have to do the big one, because that's part of the project governance. But the smaller one, which is very, very useful still, it's not that common. So if you can get into the habit of doing it and training yourself, it doesn't take long to maintain, especially if you don't have to collect you don't have to go to the lengths that you would have to go on the bigger decision log. You don't have to gather all that requirement. Just make a note of those key decisions and who was involved in them and when that meeting was and what time it was. That should be enough for you. But you can, at the end of the day, just get into the habit of opening up your log, thinking, right, what key things to be decided today? Might be nothing, it might be a few things, just make a note of them. And if you can bring that up in meetings to end disputes or help people in terms of remembering what was said, you'll look very professional as a project manager. So that's another benefit of doing it. Okay, so let me do a very quick recap and then we'll call it a day on this video. So what is a decision log? It's a record, well, the strict governance project management version is a record of all the big key decisions that have been made on the project that are going to impact the project, either on time, cost or quality, or that could change the direction of the project, change the plan. And it's a record of those big decisions, who has made them, what senior leaders have made them. That has to be, these decisions can't be made by the project manager, they have to be made by the right people at the right level of seniority. So who made them, and then what options were discussed, and any evidence as well. That's what that log is for. Why should you care? Well, as I just say, most big organizations, if they're doing project management properly, they will mandate that you have one of these, and it usually forms part of the software that company uses. If not, then you might have to use an Excel or a SharePoint, but you'll have to do it. And there are benefits to doing it as well. And the 4 benefits: number 1, great for settling arguments. If you've forgotten what has been said, you can bring up that log and say, yep, here's who was involved in that conversation, here's what was agreed, and here's why. Number 2, will save you time from having those arguments down the line or trying to remember things that you've forgotten. Number 3, very, very good for audit trails and being audited after the project is completed. So very good to keep one. And lastly, you will look very professional as a project manager if you use one and you get into the habit and train yourself to use it properly and use it every day, even for those smaller decisions. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video, and until tomorrow, please take care.